say when you're 13 to 15 and you're a male. Now, it also applies to females, but less so because they're not as aggressive. But so imagine that you're a 13 to 15-year-old male who never breaks a rule ever. Okay, now imagine you're a 13 to 15-year-old and you break a rule all the time. And then imagine that you're somewhere in the middle. Okay, so that's the whole distribution. Well, the males who never break a rule, they are at higher risk for dependent personality disorder, for depression and anxiety later in life. Now, the ones on the other end of the spectrum are much more at risk for lifetime criminality, let's say, in substance abuse, violence, and all that. So there's pathology associated with both extremes with regards to rules. Now, the kids in the middle, they are going to experiment. And so now you can imagine that if you're a kid who comes from a good home and you're pretty rule oriented, there might well be a time between the ages of 13 and 15 or 16, something like that, where it's actually appropriate for you to admire the rule breakers to some degree, because that's one of the things that pops you out of that childhood dependence on your parents, right? But hopefully you would supersede that as you mature, and that is the pattern for most men, right? I mean, criminality drops off like mad around 25, and so does substance abuse, something like that. And that's often when men who are like women like men 4 to 5 years older, and so it makes sense that it's about 25 or so that men start to get their act together. And that's when they take that step beyond the more narcissistic and showy aspects of masculinity and take on these roles that are oriented towards a longer time span and a broader social horizon.